The Miami Marlins just concluded an abysmal season that saw them finish at the bottom of the National League East, whilst trading away star players like Jazz Chisholm and Luis Arias. And today we're going to try to rebuild them for 2025. This is all a part of my Rebuild October series, where I'm rebuilding a new team every day across the month of October, so be sure to check out my Rockies and White Sox rebuilds that are already out, as well as the rest of the videos throughout the rest of the month. With that being said, let's start swimming with the fishes. The Miami Marlins made their direction as a team very clear in 2024, shedding cost and trying to rebuild the rock bottom prospect system. A lot of these prospects in return from their major trades are fairly major league ready, so it's important to leave room for them to join the roster while signing cheap veterans that could provide more prospect depth at the trade deadline. However, before I can look at who the Marlins should add, we need to take a look at the internal players who have expiring deals in 2024. Luckily for the Fish, Matt Andriese is the only expiring deal, and with only 6 innings pitched since 2021, I think it's a pretty comfortable decision to let the veteran walk in free agency. Staying within the organization, there are 4 prospects that could make a major impact for the Marlins in 2025, the first of which actually just graduated from prospect status, and it's Connor Norby, who the Marlins acquired in the Trevor Rogers trade with the Baltimore Orioles at the trade deadline. So far, Norby has enjoyed a good tenure in Miami, and the Marlins should look to have an everyday starter from day one in 2025. Joining him as an impact bat in 2025 is Davison De Los Santos, the corner infield prospect who the Marlins acquired from the Diamondbacks for AJ Puck at the trade deadline. De Los Santos has crushed the minor leagues in 2024 behind his 60 grade power, but that's where his value will remain. De Los Santos isn't athletic enough to remain at the third base spot in the majors, so I expect to see him switch fully to first base, which creates a dilemma for the next prospect, Agustin Ramirez, who suffers a similar fate. Ramirez is a catching prospect with a big bat, however there are a lot of concerns around his defensive ability pretty much across the board. With a lack of agility, stone hands, and framing and blocking concerns, a switch to first base seems to be in the cards. There'll still be room for him on this major league roster, however both him and Santos will have to jostle for time throughout the year if Ramirez can't stick at catcher. And then we have a couple pitchers, Robbie Snelling and Adam Mazur, who could find their way to the majors, especially if the rotation has the injury problems that they had in 2024. Cabrera, Mayer, Alcantara, Weathers, and Luzardo all missed significant time in 2024, turning what should have been a strength into a definite weakness. Assuming there is better fortune with the health, it should be something to look forward to for the Marlins in 2025, and the focus should be elsewhere on the roster. Unfortunately for the rest of the roster, they aren't really close to competing, and considering the new general manager's past with the Rays, it's hard to see them going in during free agency. With that being said, the Marlins are in need of a cheap outfield option, and Tommy Pham is going to be that guy. Pham is a fairly league average player, but is a quality veteran presence for a young Marlins team that could turn into a trade chip at the deadline. It's a very similar story for the bullpen, which saw a lot of quality names leave at the deadline. The Marlins should love to add quality tradable names back to this bullpen. The names that the Marlins should be interested in is division rival Adam Ottavino. The 38-year-old on the base stats had a rougher 2024 with his ERA and WHIP being the highest it's been since 2021. However, the strikeouts and walks trended in the right direction, which should convince the Marlins that his career is far from over. On top of that, the Marlins should have interest in Caleb Ferguson, who has been much better in his time with the Astros across the second half of the season. If he can continue that trend in 2025, it can be another name the Marlins could look to move on from at the deadline and acquire more prospects. That leaves the Marlins with a team filled with young talent, former top prospects, and some key veterans at positions in need. The final roster would consist of Ramirez at catchers, Santos at first, Brujan at second, Xavier Edwards at short, Norby at third, Pham in left, Pache in center, with Jesus Sanchez in right, with Jake Berger at DH, with the rotation consisting of Alcantara, Weathers, Luzardo, Mayer, and Cabrera, with a bench consisting of Nick Fortes, who will act as a key defensive replacement at catcher, Otto Lopez with some help up the middle, Jonah Bride, and Griffin Conan. Would this group of guys be a playoff contender? Probably not. However, with this pitching staff, it can keep them in games, and if a couple guys develop properly, with a few of these top former prospects breaking out, this team could be surprisingly decent. Again, this is a development year for the Marlins. Barring a major breakout by a lot of key performers, this team should not be close to competing. However, it's important to allow these guys time to develop and see what happens.